In many communities across West Africa, the story of Ananse is told. Ananse is either described as a spider or as a man, but he is never Spider-Man. In this story, we see Ananse as a man. In a village far away, 3 friends came together to have a farm. They planted some fruits and the trees gradually grew and bore a lot of fruit. One day, Ananse went to the farm and he was met by his friend Abam. They were very happy to come to the farm and see all their hard work paying off. They were later joined by Mensa, who had also been very enthusiastic about all that had happened. The friends were so much filled with joy. When they decided to share the fruits and how each person would get which amount, a fight broke out when Ananse told all of them that he expected to get more of the fruit because the farm was on his land and expected that more of it would be for him than his friends. The other friends were not happy. However, Abam told them to relax, to go home and think about it, and come again another time to finally decide how they were going to share all the things they had been able to work hard for. Ananse was not happy. So when the friends left the farm, he continued to linger on the farm. He stood under one of the trees and decided to have a plan to ensure that he could get more of the farm produce than his friends. As he continued to think, night fell, and by that time he had a plan. He went home happy knowing that he had the perfect solution to ensure that he would get the greater share of the farm produce. Next day, the news went out of the tragedy that had befallen Ananse. Everybody got to know that Ananse had died and had been buried on his farm. Many of the people in the community were sad because it had been so sudden. His friends, Abam and Mensa, came to the farm and indeed saw the grave. They were overcome by the sadness of the death of their friend. They had really been affected by the fact that the last time they met, they had not left on a good note. They mourned a lot on the farm. They cried and wept. They told stories of how Ananse had helped them at various times and how they had grown fond of him. They paid their last respects to the grave and then decided to go home and think through what had happened in just the space of 24 hours. However, unknown to them, their sadness was not the same as shared by the one they had mourned for. In the evening, Ananse decided to put into practice his plan. He came out of the grave and gradually started taking as much of the fruits and eating it and then going back to the grave. Finally, when Abam and Mensa had decided to go over the grave, they came to the farm only to see that all their fruits on the trees had mostly disappeared. They were shocked and they continued to think what could have happened. Who could have done this bad act of stealing fruits from the trees they had so much planted? They decided to come up with a plan themselves. They put a statue on the farm to see if they could catch the thief, just like it always used to happen. In the evening, Ananse came out of this farm. However, when he came from the grave this time, he saw that there was this shady character standing on the farm. He thought to himself, who could this be? Who has come to this farm that I've been enjoying from so much? He questioned the person and decided to go close and find out whether he could talk to him. As he continued to talk, the person did not mind him. As he got closer and continued to touch him, he realized that he was getting stuck to the parts of the body. And finally, his whole body was stuck to the statue. This was because Abam and Mensa had put a lot of glue on the statue. The next day, the two friends came to see that their statue had indeed worked and had caught the thief. But as they got closer and examined who the thief was, to their shock, they realized it was their dead friend Ananse. "Ghost! Ghost!" shouted Abam. Mensa said, "No, ghosts do not live. This must be a ploy by Ananse." They pulled him aside and said, "Ananse, why did you do something like this? We thought you were dead and had come to mourn you." Ananse, filled with shame, bowed his head and indeed confessed to his friends about all that he had done. He pleaded for them to forgive him. Initially, they were not happy, But as time went on, the friends decided to give him another chance and to listen to what he had to say. With his head bowed, he promised to do better. So the friends took away the statue and Anansi took away the grave. The three friends came together once more to plant the trees again. And as they continued to cultivate it, the trees started bearing fruit. And there were so many fruits on the trees. This time the three friends met and they were much happy. There was no problem with how they were going to decide to share the fruits, as they had all agreed that since Anansi had eaten much of the first fruits, he would get less this time. It was an amicable solution, and the friends went home happy. The moral of this story is that we should learn to always share, and once we work hard, we should also be able to enjoy the fruits of our labor. This is the story of Ananse, the crafty thief.